to another edition of the Cubs Now podcast. Lance Brozdowski alongside Alex Cohen. We're going to rip through a bunch of topics today. Very exciting run that the Cubs are on after kind of a morbid May, but things have definitely turned.
Morbid May.
Morbid May is a great way to put it. But man, you're kind of on a heater right now. You in particular, but also the Cubs. I want to start with this call, the walk-off of yours. I thought it was an incredible call. Talk to me about what you're thinking when that ball from Seiya goes up in the air off Mason Miller.
There's so many different components to this because Seiya Suzuki has 99 career big league home runs. So if he hits the home run, it's not just the walk-off. He's the fourth Japanese player to hit 100 home runs in the big league. So you want to make sure that you cap off that. But also the ball's in the air. Seiya thinks it's gone. Everybody in the crowd thinks it's gone. But you see that it's off the end of the bat a little bit. The exit velocity isn't that hard. You see the left fielder going back, and you kind of have to just take stock of the moment. Make sure you don't call a home run as a double or, unfortunately, a home run as a catch made.
Yeah.
But that's where TV is kind of your benefit because people can see it, so you can lay out, hold back, and if the 40,000 person crowd tells the story, then they tell the story. But fortunately, it all worked out, and kudos to Seiya. That was a pretty big swing.
We were watching in the studio here, and it was difficult to tell what was happening from the broadcast, which is a better view than I guess you're getting to some extent, despite the fact you have monitors. But anyways, let's take a look at this from Seiya, just the kind of sequence of stuff that happened in this crazy ninth inning from Monday. And I know we're a couple days removed from it, but I just still think it's relevant overall. You got the Dansby knock, Machado kind of bobbling the ball a bit. That was kind of your Kickstarter. Jason Adams still in there, PCA. Multiple amazing at-bats in this game. This one was kind of sawed off the other way. Then you get Alex Bregman hitting one up the middle. Good to see him kind of get going here in a big spot. Then a little hanging slider from Mason Miller.
See, look, he posed. So when you pose, you're like, you're about to get a home run call. And then he crashes into the ivy and he has, leaves in his face.
I know. And in the moment, it seemed like, you watch it and you're like, oh, he caught that. And then you see the replay. It's like, he wasn't really close.
But real time between like the elevation of the swing and then him obviously about to preemptively celebrate. It was fun. There were so many different parts to that inning. It was the Machado not unable to get the ball out of his glove. It was Pete getting on base for the fourth time. I thought that the walks that he drew were really impressive. I think that single was really good against Mason Miller, against Jason Adam. And then the Alex Bregman single. I mean, we were talking about it up in the booth. First and second, nobody out. And you have the potential game-winning run at second. Is that a bunt situation? Well, with Alex Bregman, he has one career sacrifice bunt, and that was back in 2017. They let him swing away. He singles to center, and then Seiya wins it. So
yeah, love that. Cubs now pacing for about 86 to 87 wins. It's the fifth best record from a projection standpoint in the National League. Their playoff odds have really shot up. These were
when you win 13 of 17 after going, being 500 in May.
That's how you get to the 70% that Fangraphs has them at right now. They're about 12% to win the division, so that's not entirely lost. You're going to face the Brewers again. You're really going to have to get them. You got 10 games coming up against the Cardinals that'll start this weekend. I do want to point out from that Brewers series, I guess mentioning them, I love Craig Counsell. I think in scrums comes across as a very, I wouldn't say like monotone, but he's a very measured person, such that when you run into the problems they had in May, you almost want more emotion. Like you listen to 670, you listen to all these other places, you listen to here, and it's like you're clamoring for like, no, I want him to be like, they need to start hitting with RISP and all these other things. But we had a moment where he was in the dugout. This was a sequence of moments in that crazy game in Milwaukee on Sunday where I just thought him showing emotion on the field almost rationalized how measured he is and every other situation that you hear in media scrums and such. I want to take a look at some of these just because they're really funny. Brendan Miller was tweeting these out, but we're just going to rip through them. I mean, he's pacing, he's flipping the hat around. He looks like most Cubs fans watching the Cubs, but he also looks like me watching my fantasy football team crumble. There's so many parallels.
There was a video during spring training of Craig watching his daughter's state championship game, and he was nervous just like this. And I enjoyed the game, obviously being there. Like his emotions fit the moment.
I agree, and I think that's good. Like him echoing, there's jacked up right there too, echoing how fans feel in these moments. I love that we capture these on our network. That is really important, I think, just to understand that he has that in him. He's just such a data-driven coach. He's such a probabilistic thinker that when you're talking to him pregame and such, you're not going to run into those emotional moments. And I think people sometimes don't get an incorrect picture of him, but just get they forget
one side of the apple.
He is also an emotional coach, which I think is you have to be when you have a huge moment against your division rival.
watching him, even throughout the entire game, it was when Ryan Rollison was in the second inning and he gives up the home run to Gary Sanchez, and you could see Counsell pacing throughout the dugout, and especially in the 10th inning, removing the hat, running the hands through his, very jealous of his hair, and but just seeing that moment of the double play, and you have bases loaded, nobody out. Jordan Wicks gets Jake Bowers to fly out, and then the double play, and Counsell celebrating, John Maley celebrating, Jonathan Moda, I think, hit the dugout so hard he might have hurt his hand. I mean, that's what you want, Lance. I mean, that's what you want. I mean, I understand that it's June, and I understand that it's just a regular season series. That was a playoff atmosphere in what's become, I think, a top 3 baseball rivalry in the game.
I agree. Feels like it's going to be the race for the division for the next 5 years or so. Like, some of these other NL Central teams are coming up, but it's going to take a lot for the Pirates and the Cardinals to get back to the point where you're getting that much
these
emotion.
two teams.
It's going to take longer for both those other teams. Got to point out some guys who are on heaters. I mean, Pete Crow-Armstrong right now, I was looking at weighted runs created plus leaders in Major League Baseball. He's a top 15 bat, just bat. We're not talking glove. We're not talking
about him being the best defensive player in the game and probably of the decade. Yeah.
Just run production. He's top 15 next to names like James Wood, Corbin Carroll, and Bryce Harper. Imagine saying that even at the beginning of the season.
Saying that on April 12th? Yeah, you're not doing that.
From a value standpoint, maybe you could have made the thesis that he would be there because of the defense, but again, we're just talking bat alone. But the question I had for you, 3 other bats here who are considered like top 60-ish hitters in baseball, purely retrospective, so what they've done so far. This is Seiya Happ and Michael Busch. They're all like in that 15 to 25% better than the league average hitter bucket. That's in that top 70 area. Which of those 3 guys do you think is most important for the team to be locked in for the second half?
It's Seiya.
I agree with you.
It's Seiya.
Tell me why.
If you look at his games last season, when Seiya Suzuki had 2+ hits, when Seiya Suzuki hit a home run, Cubs won nearly 80% of the games. And that is a better percentage than when Pete Crow-Armstrong did that, than when Ian Happ did that, than when Kyle Tucker did that, than when Nico Horner did that. So when Seiya slugs and when Seiya gets on base and hits as a middle-of-the-order bat, Cubs win games, and you're just looking at this recent stretch this week, 4 consecutive games of 2+ runs batted in. Seiya was a 30+ home run hitter, 100+ RBI guy, and if he can get to that or at least have those paces in the second half, Cubs are going to the playoffs. He's the most important bat in their lineup.
I agree. We did show a board, I believe, in-game. It might have been Monday or Sunday. I'm not entirely sure, but Chris Camp got a tweet, and I imagine he had some play in getting this board on air. But this has been a roller coaster season, as I mentioned at the top of this block here, and I think encapsulating it is this tweet from Kamka where he basically said you have like a sandwich of awesome production. It's like a sandwich where the bread is very good.
Kind of like an Oreo.
But there's nothing in the middle of the sandwich. It's like you go to the deli and they give you one piece of turkey and you're like,
it's like 2 days old.
But the bread is the best bread you've ever had.
Yeah.
This is the sandwich of the Cubs season so far. And I want to show this tweet just to kind of encapsulate what Kamka was showing. Incredible run for the first about month and a half here. This was, March 25th to early May, and then you have this pocket for a month between May and June 10th, and then since June 11 onward, and even if you just look June 1st onward is really where the offense in particular started to turn around, but I think the pitching had been struggling a bit, but I mean,
that's wild.
I don't know if this is good. I don't know if
best,
this is bad,
worst, best, 131. I mean, that's tough. And you look at that May 9th to June 10th stretch. I mean, that's 29 games of just really struggling overall, but especially offensively. But if you look at that March 25th to May 8th range where they're 27-12, best in Major League Baseball, they're top 5 offense in baseball. June 11th to the present, they're 10-3. They're a top 5 offense in baseball. So as the offense goes, the team goes. That being said, the bullpen, especially over the last week, starting in the road trip of the Mets, they've stepped up in a big way.
They have. There's some reinforcements we're going to talk about after the break here coming up in a sec. But I do want to point out that it does feel like how good PCA has played. I know I kind of skirted by him by asking you about Seiya Busch and Happ, but how good he has played has helped spur this trend. We had a board, I believe, in our pregame show Tuesday, talking through how this stretch for him is like this month is one of like the best months from an OPS standpoint in like literally the history of the Cubs. I think it's like Ryan Sandberg and a couple other guys that are in there. It's all names that you're like, that's Cubs legends to some extent. Watching him from above, like I know he's such a good defender and he's hopefully gonna win the Platinum Glove, win another Gold Glove and such, but his development offensively, we can't talk about it enough from a walk standpoint.
Walks.
His approach has been unbelievable.
Go from 0-2 to a walk to above league average walk rate to doubling his walk rate from last season, even in a 30-30 year where he was 9th in the MVP voting. He is so much more valuable when he gets on base So you're right. He's got a 370 on base percentage.
It's crazy.
We were talking about this early on in the season. We'd be fine with 320, 330. He'd be a 7-WAR player. This is a 37% on base guy. Like it's such an incredible source of growth. And even in the at-bats in the Milwaukee series, he walked 3 times on Sunday. The at-bats during the first game of the Padres series, he gets on base 4 times. He's got 2 singles, 2 walks. I mean, he's a different offensive player, and seeing him make those adjustments in season. I mean, the first 2 weeks were not very good. They were very much similar to the second half of his 2025 season, to be able to make the mechanical swing changes and also the mentality at the plate, the patience. Like, doing that real time is so difficult.
14 walks last 11 games for him entering Tuesday's play. What do you peg the probability at that he can actually win the MVP over Shohei Ohtani? I feel like it's a lock, but there's a chance. Like, Ohtani gets hurt, gets IL,
so that's
it.
If he gets hurt, and this would happen with Aaron Judge last year. I mean, he was
Cal Raleigh the race,
he was
right? Yeah.
minus 2,000 in the betting odds in July, and then Judge misses 6 weeks, 4 weeks. He ultimately wins the MVP, but. Yes, when you're dealing with somebody who is both a position player and a pitcher, injuries can happen.
Yeah.
Injuries can happen, guys.
So sub 5%, but it feels like it's I think it's in like the 2 to 5% area. Very unlikely you play this season out 20 times, he doesn't win it, but there's a peripheral chance here that he takes it home, right? I'm not crazy.
He might be a 10-WAR player. Like, we have to consider like how valuable of a season that he's having.
And I know we're talking about it from like the peak. Like He's probably not going to have a better month than he's presently had this season. It's more a matter of his next sequential months, July, August, September, are those 80%
making sure
as
that he
good?
doesn't struggle in the second half like he did last.
Like how is he pitched differently? Which honestly, this has always been the theme is like if he stops swinging out of the zone, then you have like your attack plan as a pitcher changes so much. Because in the past it was like I could just throw breakers out of the zone, he's going to swing.
Yeah.
So like why would I ever come in zone to him? Now it's like now you have to beat him in zone, which is much harder to do.
It's like more difficulty with fastball up than it
Yeah.
does with breaking balls. So
It's why I know everyone is on the batting average game, but like OBP matters so much. It
especially for a
drives
player
run
like that
production
who's going to be a
so
40
much.
stolen base guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. So it's been so fun to watch his development here on the Cubs Now podcast. We're going to take a quick break. After the break, talk some pitching, reinforcements coming up at AAA, as well as a trade fit for the deadline. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Cubs Now podcast. Lance Brozdowski alongside Alex Cohen. We got some reinforcements at AAA. Good friend of the show, Jason Kempf, tweeting out
Fellow
that
ball guy.
We got a lot of guys coming in the system. The Angels DFA Drew Pomeranz, old friend, Cub legend, and he was not doing well. I had a 5 ERA in 23 and a third innings. His K rate against righties dropped from 24% down to 8%, which is almost unfathomable. I was looking at some of the underlying data there, and it didn't look like anything was dramatically different. I really like this as a pickup, especially because he's guaranteed the $4 million throughout the course of the season. Cubs won't have to pick that up. Liam Hendriks is another name here who, again, really long storied career, but hasn't really been good since 2022. He's run into, just terrible. He had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Yeah.
He had Tommy John. He had an ulnar nerve transposition, if I'm getting heck right. I don't even know what that is.
You're a data guy and a doctor.
I'm
Look
not
at
a,
you.
no,
Yeah.
don't oversell me like that. Aaron Bummer's another one. This is a little more immediate to me, where like he was pretty good recently, pretty good in 25. His best pocket was like that 21 to 24 area with the Braves.
Yeah.
The Braves ended up letting him go. So you got reinforcements there. How about rank for me the potential impact on those 3 guys at the major league level for the Cubs specifically rest of the season?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I think Aaron Bummer is probably the closest to helping immediately. When it comes to Drew Pomeranz, remember he was traded from the Mariners when he was in AAA with Tacoma to the Cubs. He spent a week, came up and was great all season. I'm sure they have to figure some stuff out from a pitch shaping standpoint and just getting him comfortable again, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Drew Pomeranz up at some point. That being said, you look at the Cubs relievers right now, and they've been pitching pretty well, so will there be some space? You're also getting some starting pitchers back. You're hopefully getting Jameson Tyone back.
Yeah.
You're hopefully getting Edward Cabrera back. So there's going to have to be movement. I think that the Hail Mary is Liam Hendriks. If he can get back to 60% of what he was during his All-Star days, it gets you like another good right-handed arm who knows how to pitch in high-leverage situations. So I would rank immediacy, Bummer, Pomeranz, and then Hendriks. But I think in terms of like actual impact, probably Pomeranz 1.
Yeah, Pomeranz is, I think, an interesting angle because not trying to trash the Angels, but like they had a lot of stuff going on in that organization.
Yeah, their pitch development isn't like necessarily great.
And they kind of overpaid like a bunch of old relievers that are all really not doing well between him and Kirby Yates and such. No offense to Pomeranz, but like they had the elixir for him last year.
Yeah.
I don't see why they can't get that back. So he's kind of my dark horse guy to be getting some save situations against lefty pockets.
I think his impact will be number one if they can get him to the point where, like, hey, I'm pretty close to where I was at last year. Let's go.
Yeah, and he was still 93-ish with the Angels, 92, 94 area. So I'm confident in that. Hendricks, the Hail Mary, I agree. Bummer, another one of an upside play. So you got reinforcements coming. I know the pen has been good. I do feel like more established names with some of that higher leverage experience.
It would help. Yeah.
It just makes me like breathe a sigh of relief. You go back to Monday's game. We were talking in studio on like, okay, they extended Shota, which we loved because I feel like a lot of the time, and I imagine people watching, they're always like, why are you pulling Shota? And it's
were you shocked that they didn't pull him after the 6th inning? Because I saw him like slapping hands and going into the dugout, but they had a lefty up, starting the 7th inning. Like that was my only glimpse. Like maybe they'll leave him in, and then they.
I think that moment in time was like a testament to the state of the bullpen. Like I'm not saying they don't have confidence in the bullpen, but it's a highly volatile bullpen. How it's
who would you rather have, Shota against a lefty, or then going
into
a bullpen that's been used infrequently?
And it's not April. It's not even early May. Like Shota's stretched out. He's way past the injury stuff he had last year. I know he's been a little homer prone this season. Obviously, everyone wants that to come down, but I like that extension. Like you're not going to do that a lot in the season. I thought Counsell was very clever in picking that pocket of like, listen, I know this is not exactly where you want Shota going 3rd, 4th time through an order, but.
But you got him to start the 7th against a lefty who has struggled against left-handed pitchers, so he should be able to get him out.
If there's any point to overextend guys, it's right now. It's now until the break, until you can get some of these healthy arms
for this
back.
2 week
you don't
pocket.
have to do it.
Yeah,
so I totally agree. Definitely on that Shota point. I did see this tweet. We're getting to the point where we're about a month away from the deadline. Obviously, the next couple episodes here, we're going to be talking about.
We were talking about it a lot early.
That
was premature. Now it's not premature.
Now it's not premature. We got the Peterson trade. I imagine we're going to get more. I'm not entirely sure what. I know I'm always going to be biased towards assuming that it'll be a non-rental. I don't think they're going to give up a bunch of assets for someone who only has a couple months of control. I imagine they're working towards maybe a more interesting.
Even though Peterson has a couple of months of control.
But that was a clever one where it's like it's early enough, the value is good enough, and like he's just going to pitch better with a better defense behind him. Mets defense is bottom 5 in baseball. Cubs is number 1 with a bullet right now. So I thought that was like a clever, if you're going to pay for a rental, do it early, get the guy you need. And it was also like, you need him really bad.
Because then you're getting you're getting 3/4 of a season instead of,
exactly.
a half or even less than a half.
So the slight overpay, if you think Cole Mathis is like a right first baseman at the major league level, is I think a little bit more acceptable given the current state of the Cubs, that being a replaceable position. What I wanted to get to though, I saw this tweet from Foul Territory. Ryan DeVish does pretty good work for the Mariners, pointing out, and I'm kind of paraphrasing what he's saying here. It was a good clip to go watch it. But what he was saying is the Mariners are in this situation where they have basically 6 starting pitchers. You also have the top pitching prospect, or one of the top pitching prospects in baseball, LSU draftee from last year, Cade Anderson. Really good lefty. You got Ryan Sloan there too. They're loaded. That's too many arms for the major league team, which gets to the point.
Although there's no such thing as enough pitching.
It's true. Yeah. But the Mariners maybe are running into the spot where they feel like they're lined up to trade somebody at the deadline. And if you're trying to find a match, it does feel like the Cubs maybe match up. I know Castillo, I'm not sure on the years of control. I should have looked this up prior to taping this, but I believe Gilbert's got another year.
He does.
I think Kirby's got another year or 2. Those are names, I know it'd be weird for the Mariners to give up a guy and be like, we're trying to make a run, we're also giving up a frontline starter. But if there's anybody the Cubs are going to overpay for, to me, it's a guy you can get for 2 postseasons. You maybe can pull a Jackson Wiggins and some of these other guys into the mix and be like, we'll overpay for Logan Gilbert and George Kirby.
And also, like, you can use a guy like Jackson Wiggins right now in your bullpen because he's not going to start. But that being said, if you're the Mariners and you are vying for another AL West crown and getting back to the playoffs, if you're dealing a George Kirby, if you're dealing a Logan Gilbert, if you're dealing any one of those pitchers, you're probably getting somebody who can impact your lineup right now in the big leagues. And the only person that stands out to me in the Cubs lineup who is controllable and somebody that Seattle could use, I mean, it's probably Matt Shaw or Pedro Ramirez.
Yeah, I'm not sure if either of those will line up from a trade standpoint. So it's an interesting spot. It's more just like the back of my mind of like, this is the kind of situation that it seems like
for the Cubs. But if you're looking at it on the other end for the Mariners, like we need impact bat right now.
And I think that name to get moved from that org is probably Luis Castillo. He feels like the odd man out. And if
a little bit older, a little bit more expensive.
Hancock has been okay. So you could trade Castillo, kick Hancock down to AAA, move him to the pen, and then bring Cade Anderson up. And it's all okay. And I'm not entirely sure the Cubs level of interest.
Cade Anderson that good?
Kate Anderson's a very good pitcher.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I like him a lot. Max Fried comp on him. All-Star, we're getting there as well. Draft on Saturday. Myself and Jim Callis will be on that broadcast. That's at noon. Futures game coming up, but you don't have the Cubs announcements yet. I will be stunned if Josiah Hartshorn is not in the Futures game. It's not breaking news. I feel like my gut and my heart is telling me that is the direction
That's the
that they're
crystal
gonna
ball
go.
mentality.
That is the crystal ball
right
mentality right there. I'm not sure the other representative would be from the Cubs, but All-Star Weekend, Pete Crow-Armstrong's got to get in. Like, that'd be a travesty if he's not. Is there another rep do you think the Cubs will sneak in on this team? Ben Brown would have been the guy.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, down with a neck injury right now.
I mean, if you look at the production across the entire season, I think Ian Happ's had a really nice year.
Sneaky good,
if
right?
you're looking at the home run total, on pace for over 30, but the outfield is so talented in the National League. It's not just the three guys who were voted in when it came to like voting and starters, but as you said, it's James Wood, it's Corbin Carroll, it's Pete. So if it was a different year in the National League when it came to outfield production, maybe Ian Happ. But I'm not sure if he gets there. I mean, I think Carson Kelly's had a really nice year overall.
Agreed, yeah.
But I'm not sure if he gets in. I think as of right now, it's probably Pete, unless, you get a big surge from Seiya Suzuki, which is,
he could go on a heater. You never know here.
He's just running, Father Time is not, helping him
I get what you're saying.
His
yeah.
2026 All-Star nominee, Father
He only
Time,
has like a very small window to prove to everyone that he is.
Yeah,
it's
if he
literally
goes
a
like
week.
5 homers in 3 games, which is something that he can do, he's got a chance. But I'll go on record and say it's probably just Pete.
I agree. Yeah, I think that's probably where it'll end up. Curious to see. I mean, I feel like the question then becomes, I don't think, because of the fan voting, Pete wouldn't be able to start, right? Okay, so then defensive replacement late, clutch AB late.
Well, they're also not
they're
not playing these outfielders for 6 innings. It's probably 4, so I would imagine he would get an AB or 2.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I'm curious to see how it would be Dave Roberts managing, how he uses Pete Crow-Armstrong would be kind of fun. The Cardinals, 10 games left, rest of season. I was looking at the Cubs' strength of schedule, mainly because the NL Central has been so good. They are like top 10 in terms of opponent quality from a win percentage standpoint. They got 3 more against the Dodgers, 3 against the Yanks, or the top 2 opponents.
Well, and that's
Cardinals are up there
Well,
too.
you bring that up because it's right after the break. I think it's like 2 weeks after the break where they have the Brewers, the Dodgers, and the Yankees in no particular order in a row. Like that is right before the trade deadline, going into the trade deadline, and that will tell you a lot about the Chicago Cubs on what they're going to do starting the first week in August and how they're going to go the first week of August into October.
And I do think most sharp teams, as the Cubs are looking at the amount they're willing to give up at the deadline and what they're trying to acquire based off playoff probability. So you may think that's kind of a farce and, Fangraphs says whatever, I don't care about playoff probability.
But the playoff probability is tough because, when we were talking about this 2 weeks ago, they were somewhere in the 40s and now they're upwards towards 70%. That's what happens when you go on a 2.5-week heater and you have the best record in baseball.
It's a good point, but I think like teams look at this. Like teams, like the Cubs are going to drive their deadline decision making on where they are from a playoff probability standpoint. So we mentioned on the last pod, but this chunk before the deadline, if you could win 65, 70% of the games, which is lofty for a baseball team, like you could put yourself in a spot where maybe my points about them not being willing to go after rentals become not true because they're just in a spot where they can predict they have a home set in that three-game plan. The 5 seed right now is tough. I think you go into Philly based on how it currently stands, which I don't feel
right now
great about.
As we are talking about this today, they had the same record. They're 47 and 38.
So a lot of,
and the
variability
Cubs, completely dominated the Phillies too.
They did.
You're 1 win away from being in 4th place. I mean, you're 5.5 games out of the division. So there's a lot that can be decided over the next 2 weeks. I think the series against the Padres is really important. I think the series against the Cardinals is really important. A July 4th weekend series at Wrigley Field.
It's going to be fun.
And I think that last series going into the All-Star break at Cincinnati is a good litmus test as well.
I agree. Yeah, Cardinals series coming up. Again, 10 games left against them. You'll get the first 3. What's your schedule looking like? I always like asking what games.
Yeah, so I'm actually really looking forward to July 5th. NBC Peacock is broadcasting all the games. That it's like their Star Spangled Banner type event. I'm actually calling the game on NBC with Taylor McGregor. She's joining us, and then Mark Sweeney. So we'll have a lot of fun. It doesn't get better than Cubs-Cardinals July 4th week.
That's awesome. That's going to be a lot of fun, man. Yeah, great stuff. Cubs kind of on a heater right now. We're talking about the weird sandwich they've created this season. We're hoping the bread on the sandwich is good going forward, and it's not a one slice of turkey that was the May.
Yeah, like we're hoping we get like the good protein in the middle and appropriate amount of condiments to make a good sandwich. So now I'm hungry. That's awesome.
Let's go, Cohen and Lance Brozdowski. Thanks for joining us as always on the Cubs Now podcast. We'll see you soon.